Court Chief Magistrate Rosemary Ibinabo cited the charges filed by the Department of Public Prosecution and ruled that the court lacked the authority to handle the case. She advised the suspect to seek bail at the State High Court, which has the proper jurisdiction to decide on such matters. Moving on, some political analysts have linked the ongoing political crisis in Rivers State to repeated betrayals among politicians driven by personal and economic interest. The executive director of Pairing Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, Ezenwa Nwagu, spoke to correspondent Suibi Ruwari while reviewing the crisis and the numerous court cases that have followed.
Let us now be blunt. Dr. Odili, Right Honorable Amaechi, they were not friends. But they didn't end up as friends, did they? They did not end up as friends. So what was the fight? Until you answer that question, it's about control of resources. Oga, you don't control this thing when you did here. Allow me to, greet me, you go put another person. Is that not where the fight is? Why can't people just simply think? So consistently, the recurring word here is betrayal. What was it that you were doing that I betrayed you? It must have been economy. I am saying that fight has nothing to do with Rivers people.
Dr. Nwagu, however, urged citizens to start holding politicians accountable for the state's resources.
The Rivers people must develop the capacity to, first of all, set up an agenda for themselves through what I call citizen charter of demand. That charter of demand is to say that all of you collectively, since 1999, you belong to the same political tradition. The thing that is causing quarrel among you is not that somebody took somebody's wife. It is your control of the resources that we own. And until you take your hand off it and concentrate on us, you will not have peace. It's not likely that they will ever settle. Let the owners of the what has been stolen come out and say, what you stole is our own.
On his part, the director of the Center for Peace and Security Studies at the University of Port Harcourt, Martin Ifeanacho, warned that the crisis is hindering development in the state.
Rivers State can kickstart the industrial revolution in Nigeria. We have so many resources that we need to sit down and put together and then show to the world. But we are allowing things that do not matter to becloud our imagination. Why should you have violence in politics if we are a democratic nation? Do you know that there is a direct relationship between the monies that you stored in your house and the deaths that are occurring in hospitals? Do you know that you are literally strangulating little children and starving them because you have amassed more than what you need? Why? You want political power.
Professor Ifeanacho said the instability has created an environment that discourages investors.
It has come to the level where we say, can we live and let others live? Can our political elite live simply so that the poor can simply survive? Let us talk about sustainable development. Sustainable development says, take what your need is so that you don't compromise the opportunities of the future generation. We have already finished what we need, and we have already finished what the future generation needs. We have already enslaved them. Is that the Rivers State that we want? Is that the future that we want? No.
In the meantime, a political analyst at the University of Port Harcourt, Obin Nwadim, says the suspension of the PDP Board of Trustees chairman, Adolphus Wagbara, is not surprising, as it is part of the ongoing struggle for control of the party at the national level. Speaking to correspondent Suibi Ruwari, Dr. Wadim explained that power players within the PDP are using such suspensions to checkmate rival camps.
It is the usual thing now. The quest for the structure of the party is part of politicking and party politics. Perhaps that was a measure to shake the other faction, and then you now see the other faction responding. Is the power or balance for the struggle for who gets the structure of the party at the end of the day? Suspension and the reaction to that suspension is not deepening the crisis in the party. The important thing is that when such issues are taken, at the end of the day, both parties will come to a compromise.
Dr. Obin Nwadim, who is a lecturer in the Department of Political and Administrative Studies, added that while outsiders may see this as a political crisis, party leaders will likely resolve their differences as the 2027 general elections approach.
These are the same friends. What people outside see as a crisis, the politicians themselves do not see it as a crisis. It's a normal thing within the political system. Don't be surprised that tomorrow you still see them eating on the same table, you still see them flying the same aircraft, you still see them, in the same platform and all that. So what a lot of people see outside as a crisis situation, to the crack politician, it is not a crisis situation, gain or to seek relevance within the political system.
Still to come, NLC threatens shutdown, demands reversal of telecom tariff hike. Stay tuned. Back. The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, has issued a March 1 deadline for a total shutdown of operations of telecommunication companies if they do not reverse the 50% tariff increase. In a communique signed by the NLC President Joe Ajaero and General Secretary Ima Obuaja, at a meeting of the NLC Central Working Committee in Lokoja, the union said as a first step in resisting the tariff hike, Nigerian workers and other willing citizens should boycott the services of telecommunication companies daily between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. from tomorrow until the end of February. The NLC and federal government earlier constituted a 10-man committee to deliberate on the tariff hike within 2 weeks and report back before any final decision would be made on the new telecom tariff structure. In spite of the agreement, telecom firms proceeded with the increase. The NLC has now accused them of betraying trust and disregarding due process. In other news, the 4 tax reform bills transmitted to the National Assembly in 2024 by President Bola Tinubu have scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill scaled second reading on the floor of the House today, 6 months after the President transmitted them to the National Assembly for consideration following the recommendations of the Taiwo Oyedele-led Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. The bills are Nigeria Tax Bill 2024, Tax Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. The bill will now be subjected to a public hearing. Away from that, Valentine's Day draws close. A Roman Catholic priest, Walter Ihejirika, has provided insight into the historical and religious significance of St. Valentine's Day. Professor Ihejirika, who is also a professor of development communications and media studies, explained that the Roman Catholic Church honors Saint Valentine, who was a bishop and evangelizer, martyred on February 14 during a period of intense Christian persecution. He said the tomb in Terni, Italy, became a pilgrimage site by the 5th century, later maintained by Benedictine monks, and over time his name became associated with love, and couples sought his intercession for marriage.
Some saints have special devotions because of certain remarkable things in their history. In the case of St. Valentine, the remarkable thing is love. By the 5th century, his tomb had become a pilgrimage destination. So by the Middle Ages, devotion to St. Valentine was widespread throughout Europe due to the Benedictines. By then, his name was associated with love. Numerous engaged couples or young married couples sought the intercession of St. Valentine through prayer.
While the Roman Catholic Church celebrates Valentine's Day as a devotion to Saint Valentine, the patron saint of love, many other Christian denominations do not formally observe it. Some Christian churches use the occasion to teach about Christian relationships, sexual purity, and marriage, while others organize youth programs aimed at refocusing young minds on Jesus Christ. Co-pastor of Hilltop International Christian Center, Stephanie Orr, whose church has been at the forefront of Valentine's Day celebrations in Port Harcourt City, spoke with our correspondent about what spurred her to start the celebration of Valentine's Day.
I kind of started it in this town, but next year will be 30 years in this thing because, first of all, if you look at the society, it was 14th February was a day used to destroy quite a lot of young girls. So many people are diverging that, day, and people could be raped, a lot of clubbing, drunkenness in the society. So if that is allowed in the society, and I have the very thought of cleansing the land, and that could be done in the right way.
The news continues after the break. On the international scene, Egypt and Qatar are intensifying diplomatic efforts to salvage the Gaza ceasefire agreement. A senior Egyptian source made this known to the BBC, that it fears the war could restart after Israel's Security Cabinet supported U.S. President Donald Trump's demand for all remaining hostages to be returned on Saturday. Palestinians and the families of Israel hostages say they are worried the ceasefire could collapse, with one man telling the BBC the atmosphere in Gaza is dominated by tension. On the news this evening, 3 more victims have succumbed to their injuries from the Orazi gas explosion. A state high court has sentenced the man to death for the 2018 murder of a mortuary owner in Rivers State. A Rivers magistrate has withdrawn from an attempted murder case. The NLC has threatened a shutdown and is demanding the reversal of the telecom tariff hike. On the foreign scene, Egypt and Qatar are intensifying efforts to salvage the Gaza ceasefire deal. The news was edited by Martha Okere. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808 721 7215. I'm Sam Chinedu. Thanks for listening.
With information comes power.